Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Hellsing Ultimate. Last time around, we had the invasion of the Hellsing mansion. Sorry, I'm scratching my leg. It was the invasion by the Valentine brothers, Luke and Jan, which wasn't great. It was not great, basically. They pretty much decimated the Hellsing soldiers, and while Walter and Saris were able to dispatch of Jan, and Alucard was able to dispatch of Luke, unfortunately, pretty much all the soldiers at Hellsing were taken out and then turned into ghouls, upon which It was Sir Irons, right? He tasked Integra to put those ghouls, those soldiers, out of their misery, because it was her responsibility as their leader. But still, it was still fun action, at least. We got to see a bit of Walter in action, which was fun. We got to see Saris and her giant cannon, and then Luke, who really tried. He really tried, and he pushed Alucard to releasing his restraint. Unfortunately, that just sort of skyrockets his power past anything Luke could manage, so it wasn't really a fight after that, and Alucard was left pretty disappointed, so yeah. And then at the end, we had the hint of who is this secret organization that could be creating all of these artificial vampires. And the only thing they heard was Millennium. But Integra deduced that Millennium is the name of the Third Reich, the 1,000-year empire started by Adolf Hitler. So that's who they're dealing with these friggin' vampires. It's a hilarious leap, but that's where we are in Hellsing, so yeah. I guess that's pretty much it. This is the first episode that I am recording after Halloween. It is currently November the 1st, 2023. Of course, the last two episodes have gone out after Halloween anyway, but it is officially no longer Halloween time. It is time for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But screw it, we're going to watch Hellsing Ultimate anyway, and we're just going to say that Halloween keeps going for a while. So, every Tuesday is now Halloween, according to us. So, and I think, let me see, when should this wrap up? So, we did the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, the last episode, the final episode should go up on Boxing Day, actually, on Patreon, and on January 2nd on YouTube. And I'll try to keep this to where, we're not going to take any breaks. I'm going to try, I hope. Maybe I might even just, because normally I do take a break at Christmas, but I might see if I can just have this keep going, just so we go through it all, basically. So, yeah. Anywho, like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of Hellsing Ultimate. Here we go.
There'll be no sand where we're going. The next job, it's in a city of fog.
Alrighty. Episode 3. Well, it's funny that I mentioned, I was like, I don't actually know what the Dandy Man is, So I was paying attention to really, see, okay, now I'm watching the actual Hellsing Ultimate. He's not in the original Hellsing, and, the only thing I've ever watched was the abridged. So I was like, okay, let me see, what actually is the Dandy Man? I wish I could tell you. They don't really go into specifics, I guess, so what they're implying is the magic cards that he had is a creation of the doctor, basically. The second to the major. I guess I could look that up. Because, I mean, he is dead, so... I do love that he's actually called the Dandy Man, too. You know? Like, that's just so nice. Okay, no. He is an artificial vampire. Okay, so he was another artificial vampire. And I guess it makes sense, too, because he did burst into the blue flames like Jan did, so... I guess that makes sense. I never realized that he was also an artificial vampire. So, he was only... I mean, it's interesting that, last episode, Luke was hyping himself up so much. It's like, oh, I'm just as strong as you are. I've surpassed you in every way. And it's like, well, no, you haven't. But here, they don't even really go over that so much. But yeah, so he was a vampire as well. I never realized that, Granted, again, hang on, I'm trying to move my seat up. It's not going too well. Granted, again, because I watched the abridged series first, and the abridged series never really mentions artificial vampires or the chip or anything. The first time I learned about that was in Hellsing Ultimate, the original Hellsing, the original Hellsing series, and even that, pretty much right after the whole thing with the Valentine brothers, that's where it kind of splits off from the manga, which is crazy, But that's about episode 6 of the original series, whereas here, that was only episode 2, So yeah, it didn't even show the Dandy Man at all. But yeah, I never realized he was also an artificial vampire. It's just that, I don't know, he doesn't, I guess just because he doesn't talk about it, And because his weapon of choice is so much different from anything else we see, if anything, he probably is a little bit... He probably is the strongest artificial vampire we've seen so far, Where, Alucard still beat him pretty easily with, once he did the whole, the release... Hold on. There we go. Release restraint stuff. But at the same time, he put up, 2 seconds more of a fight, so that was something. I don't know. But yeah, but still, good stuff. Very good stuff. So we had the introduction of Pip and the soldiers, which was pretty cool. I do like how, because Walter says, you wouldn't really trust a mercenary because, they're just in it for money, but they're also in it to save their own skin. They will not... a mercenary generally is not going to do something that would definitely endanger their lives. But these soldiers, they're a bit more loyal. They're a bit more good about it. It doesn't really matter to them. And granted, they're not going to be taking on the artificial vampires. They won't take on the artificial vampires. They'll leave that up to Alucard and Ceres. They have to take care of a lot of the ghouls and stuff. So that was interesting. And I like Pip just immediately. He's a really interesting character. And I like how, he kind of went in there and sort of cleaned things up a little bit. Make sure all those guys who were promised immortality are destroyed, basically. And get rid of any evidence of whatever they had. So that was cool. We did have the encounter with Enrico Maxwell, which was cool. It is kind of strange though when he's I guess he just wanted Anderson there to as just a, I don't know, just as a deterrent, but you literally called him over. Why would he not come over and, pick a fight with Alucard, And those two, they're just so crazy. Which, I guess that is one thing too that despite the fact that we've seen, these artificial vampires that are this powerful, Anderson is the biggest challenge that Alucard has had. Which, I mean, I guess that could lead to part of why I never realized that the Dandy Man was a vampire, because Anderson is not. He is, artificially enhanced. He was somehow, enhanced by the Iscariot, but he's not a vampire specifically, He's not a vampire. So I guess that might have been where part of my confusion came, and just not knowing about the chips during the abridged, and honestly struggling to follow things in the abridged, As fun as it was, I went into Hellsing Ultimate Abridged with no knowledge of what Hellsing was, So yeah. We did get the mention of Alucard and Walter during World War II, which I believe there's like a 3-part OVA series, like Hellsing the Dawn, that goes over some of that time of Walter as a young man dealing with the Nazis. I don't know. But that's really cool. But I did enjoy that, it's like, oh, we had to take out all of them. And Walter's like, oh, yes, I believe you're right. And it's like, oh, man, you're getting fucking old, man. But that was interesting. We did have, I guess, sort of one of the bigger things of this episode is the question of being a monster, I guess. Not even a question, it's just sort of something you have to get used to, which it's interesting. I do like that, the one guy, he shot himself, he killed himself in order to escape, being eaten by Alucard, basically. Hey, sorry. First thing in the morning, even after the episode. Ugh, I'm alright though. But yeah, this soldier basically kills himself because he doesn't want to be eaten by Alucard. I like that actually, it angers Alucard. Like, it takes out the fun, And because of that, that anger is then transferred at Saris, because it's like, it doesn't matter that they are innocent and stuff. Which I think that's an interesting, I guess, debate you can have. Because we kind of had it last episode of like, you could make a debate like, should Integra be the one to have put those soldiers down, And, I think there is validity to the fact that it's like, well, she is their leader, and this should not have happened under her watch, Like, everyone should have been more prepared, basically. The mansion should never have been invaded, So, I feel like you could argue one way or the other. And it's interesting here, like, because Saris, again, it kind of goes back to episode 1, where, she didn't drink the blood, and she said, if I did, I feel like I would lose part of myself. And Alucard says, you're a fool, but you may have a point, And I feel like, that's sort of the same thing here, where it's like, now he's, especially just at that moment, he didn't want to hear anything about it. It's like, he didn't want to hear anything about humanity or innocent people, and probably just because he's too far gone, He's too far gone. He has been at this for hundreds of years, He is a monster, and that is, what Walter says, When asked, how will Alucard respond to this, it's like, you have to remember what he truly is at the end of the day. He's a monster. And even if they are innocent humans, he will devour them because they are in his way, Now, he doesn't go out and, just go to a club and start eating people or something with no instruction. But if they do stand in his way, which, unfortunately, these men were just following orders, but he's gonna do that, you know? And he accepted probably, you know, hundreds of years ago that he is a monster, you know? And he doesn't want to be reminded of that sort of humanity, you know? Which I think is why he snapped at Saris like that, you know? He doesn't want to be reminded of that because there's nothing left for him, you know? Without being a monster, if he's not a monster, he is nothing at this point, you know? Because being a human is off the table. So, he doesn't want to hear Saris's woes about that. Like, no, just do it and be the monster, you know? And especially, probably, you know, if, even though this might be reading into it a bit too much, if Saris is a monster, then he is not technically alone, you know? Even though I don't think that's a thing that necessarily bothers him, you know? But there is the question of, you know, why did he turn Saris at all, you know? Why does he have this vampire, you know? Why does he have this vampire underling who is connected to him specifically, you know? As his servant. And yeah, it's not... I think there are questions, you know, there are, you know, things you could think about with that. You know, is he lonely as a monster? You could go into some of that. Or, at the same time, you could also say, though, it's like, well, but is he, though? You know? Maybe he's not. Because, I mean, he certainly still enjoys what he does. He likes being a monster. And he's been a monster for so long, you know? So, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thought process, I suppose. But yeah, but that was good. The fight was good. I love when he chucks the guys out there and they land on the things and get impaled, you know? It just, I mean, it's just further, you know, showing that it's like, no, this is Dracula, you know? Which they also do reference Bram Stoker, which is hilarious. So, I'm assuming that every movie as well is also, like, that happened, you know? Like, there's still a Bela Lugosi Dracula movie in this world, you know? Which is interesting. Because they do say it's, like, even Pip references, like, oh, you know, and all the stories are wrong, you know, for the most part. And then it cuts to Saracen or Coffin. But yeah, but I mean, even just down to the whole thing, which I figured this out during the original Hellsing, that Saris and Alucard do not, you know, burn in the sunlight, you know? I think it is, because, I mean, that is also part of Bram Stoker's novel, that, you know, it was the original Nosferatu movie, from, what was it, 1922. It's the oldest surviving Dracula movie. There were reports, there's a couple that might have predated it, but they're lost, but this is the oldest surviving one. I actually did a review of it here on the channel. And that was what introduced the concept of sunlight killing vampires. But that's not in the original novel, and it's not the case here. So yeah, so that's an interesting thing. But still, I love how, you know, how Integra talks about that, and it's like, oh, if you want more details, consult Bram Stoker. And it's like, so he still made, so in this, is Dracula a true story then? Because they do also show, you know, at the beginning of last episode, they showed that moment, what seemed to be the moment between Dracula and the original Professor Hellsing, you know? I don't know. Is this canon to... I guess that's the thing, is Dracula the book a true story in this universe, you know? It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting concept, so... So yeah, and, of course, Alucard is just excited that, you know... I like how he says there's still fools in the world, who want to cause this kind of destruction, thus I can fight them, basically, you know? And I really enjoyed that. So, yeah, I guess that was it. Good stuff. And I'm excited to see where we are going next time. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Hellsing reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.